Today I'm talking about a band that has been around for a long time. They're called Tokyo Blade, and they're part of the new wave of British heavy metal movement. They have a new album called Time is the Fire, released on January 17th, and this is their 12th album. This band dates back to the year 1979. They changed their name a few times. They started out as White Diamond, then it changed to Killer, then it changed to Genghis Khan, then Madame Guillotine, and sometime around 1982, they took on the name Tokyo Blade. They released their self-titled debut in 1983, and they've been putting out music pretty consistently over the years. They took a couple of breaks here and there, but I don't want to really go too much into their history. This band pretty much has all the members who have been around since the beginning, even though they have been in and out of the band. The album has 14 tracks. It's an hour and 14 minutes long, so it's pretty long. Now, I usually talk about the singles and music videos, but there were just 2 singles and I couldn't find any music videos. So let me just talk about the album and the music, and I'm kind of dividing it into different sections. Basically, this album is heavily influenced by 80s hard rock and heavy metal. There's a lot of inspiration from the new wave of British heavy metal scene. One song bringing in some Iron Maiden influences, but there are also a few songs that bring back that glam metal sound of the 80s. Most songs have melodic hooks, big vocals, and catchy melodies. There are lots of guitars in the album. The riffs are geared towards being very melodic. The album has a lot of variety with a nice mix of power ballads, hard rockers, a few heavier tracks. The production also gives the album a classic 80s sound. So with that being said, let me go into more details with the songs. There were a lot of songs that sounded like the glam metal bands of the 80s. For example, Moth to the Fire had some big hooks and the same attitude that bands had back then. The sound evoked memories of the glam metal scene from that time period. Are You Happy Now was a mid-paced rocker with a pretty cool guitar solo in the beginning of the song. Another song that captures that glam metal sound of the 80s and has some pretty cool cowbells in the drumming. I also noticed some pretty cool twin guitar harmonies. Don't Bleed Over Me sounded like some classic heavy metal with the glam influences. This reminded me a lot of the band Dokken. One of those songs that had some harder moments, but also a very melodic verse section with clean guitars. Another song that reminded me of Dokken was Written in Blood. One of those songs that sounds like it came from an album recorded in the 80s. This one also had a big sing-along chorus that would probably go over well in a live setting. There were also songs that sounded like melodic hard rock. There was the opening track called Feeding the Rat. Sounded like some classic heavy metal from the 80s. It was very melodic with that big arena rock sound. The guitar riff is pretty cool. I thought that the middle part of the song was cool, went through this tempo change. It was right before the guitar solo. The next song called Man on the Stair also fit this category. The intro was strange. It had a woman speaking these words and it went into this dark and haunting intro, kind of like something you would hear on an Ozzy Osbourne album. It was another melodic hard rock song, but the difference was that it had a little bit of a darker tone. After about 4.5 minutes, the song appears to stop, but then a woman comes back and starts talking again and the song picks up. The song is 6 minutes, which is the average length of some of the songs on the album. Then we had The Enemy Within, another melodic hard rock song. Had one of those dark and creepy intros like the previous song, except this one was a power ballad, which was actually the first power ballad on the album. And I thought it was pretty cool. It had some clean guitars and arpeggiated chords with more of an emotional tone. And the lyrics, I believed, being about some type of heartbreak or distress. Going with the Flow was one with a softer intro, had some cool spacey bass guitar playing. This was another power ballad. It reminded me of those ballads from Whitesnake in the late 80s. Had the clean guitars, the emotional tone. I thought the vocals were pretty good as the vocalist used both lower vocals and ones in the higher range. The song is also filled with melodic guitar solos, but then after 4 minutes, the song shifts gears. It gets faster and heavier, which was unexpected, but I still thought it was pretty cool. The Devil in You was another melodic rocker, but I would say this was the heaviest song on the album. The song had more of a traditional heavy metal sound mixed with glam. It actually sounded like some early Motley Crue back when they were a good band, but otherwise this one has some faster rhythms and a lot of that 80s hard rock and metal attitude. I thought it was a cool song as there were parts of it that were borderline speed metal, but it still maintained the sound of the album. Soldier On was another good one. It sounded like some early Iron Maiden, but much more melodic and more of a hard rock sound opposed to being heavy metal. The vocals reminded me of Thin Lizzy. I guess it was the way he delivered the lines in the verse. But in general, it was a hard rocker with some cool melodic twin guitar harmonies. There was one part of the song where they switched gears, got very melodic, played an instrumental section with this spacey atmosphere. Now the album had a few standouts, and those were some of the more epic sounding songs that had historical context. The 47 had some keyboards in the intro, which was the first time I heard keyboards on one of the songs in the album. It was a hard rocker, had lots of energy. Songs about the 47 samurai, which is a true story based on Japanese history. They made a movie about it with Keanu Reeves called 47 Ronin. I don't want to go off on a tangent, but as for the song, the hard rocker has some lighter sections. I would even go as far to say is that there were some progressive elements, but all in all, it was a melodic hard rocker. Then there was a song called The 600. This had some of those big power chords that led to some melodic guitar playing. The song features some powerful drumming. It's about 600 warriors. Although I'm not really sure more about the meaning behind the song, but I believe it's about history. It was a hard rocker. It tells a story. There's an interlude that has a spoken word part, and the kind of thing you hear in power metal, which is kind of weird. It was like a mix of that power metal and US glam metal. There was one more history song, and it's the last song on the album, called The Ramesses. And it's the longest song on the album. It's about 8 minutes long. It has a sound much different than most of the other songs. Sounds like a classic Iron Maiden song that talks about history. The song's about Egyptian history, and it didn't sound a lot like the Glam Metal inspired song like the rest of the album. I enjoyed it, as I am a big fan of songs about Egyptian history. I mean, Iron Maiden did this back in 1984 with Power Slave, which some say is the best album. This song has this softer interlude in the middle of the song, has these ominous voices, and the melodic instrumental sections. Goes into the guitar solo, and there's some cool twin guitar playing in the last part of the song. Thought it was really good, as it was kind of like the band Rainbow, but meeting Iron Maiden. So in conclusion, I thought it was not too bad, but I have a few issues with the album. The first one is that it was too long. I think an hour and 15 minutes is pretty long for this type of album. And secondly, I thought some of the songs dragged on longer than it should have. Talk about the songs that had this glam metal style, but with song lengths around 6 minutes. And I think those songs are better when they're shorter. I think the exception would be the last song, Ramses, which was the perfect length. It was 8 minutes, but it was a different style. And I would rather have had an album filled with fewer songs in the style of Ramses's than a lot of songs in the hair metal style. But with that being said, I still give the album a 7 out of 10. I think it has some catchy tracks in the album, and I don't mind listening to it. So that is all. Check out my review of the latest album by Gravedigger. I'll stick it right there. In the meantime, thanks for watching. Please give this video a like. It helps me with the YouTube algorithm. Please subscribe if you have not already. I do rock and metal reviews, rankings, and more. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next one.